Okay, welcome everyone. My name is Joe Hawkins, the Director of Parent and Family Programs. Thanks for making the time to come and attend this webinar and listen to what the Career Center was going to talk about Center for supporting your student in their internship and job search. Before we get started, I want to make sure everyone knows that we're recording this webinar. At the end of this, we'll download it, transcribe it, and set it up on the YouTube channel. It'll take us about a week to turn that around. So in about a week, you'll find it on the YouTube channel, and we'll get it out there for folks to come back and watch the recording if you're not able to make it through all the way to the end. And then as we go, if questions pop up in your mind, we're going to hold the questions until the end. But we've got this Q&A function down here at the bottom in your toolbar down there for the Zoom. If you'll hit that Q&A, you can pop a question in there, and then we will, Beth will take time at the end to go through all the questions as we go. With that, let me turn it over to Beth Zink, the Director of Career Development with the Center for Career Exploration and Success. Welcome, Beth.
Great. Thanks, Joe. Well, that was a mouthful, isn't it? I think we'll just call it the Career Center for today, but welcome to everybody. I'm so glad you could join us. As Joe said, it is just a gorgeous day here in Oxford. Your students are out there walking to and from class, I can promise you. And we are just all excited about fall and the start of our career season in the fall too. So I wanted to kind of just, tell you a little bit about why we're doing this and kind of give you some information and talk about 30 minutes and then make sure that we have time for any questions that you might have. And certainly we're always welcome to take your calls in the office if you have other issues as well that you want to kind of discuss with us. But because it is the beginning of fall, because it is the beginning of career season, it always feels like there's a lot going on, and some students are still unpacking. Some students are still trying to figure out where all their classes are. Well, by now they've figured out their classes, I promise you, but they're just really kind of getting into this routine. And then we come along and throw them into this career fair season. And unfortunately, that's just the nature of recruiting and employers and their schedules. So I hope that this information kind of helps you with some information, but helps you maybe pass it on to your students as well. So I'm going to go ahead and show you a slide that some of you may have seen during orientation, but I think it kind of kicks off what I'm trying to do. And this kind of diagram shows our career community here at Miami and the different components that all circle around the students and support the students. And the reason I wanted to bring this up and the reason we're doing this webinar is we did this really very informal survey of students last year to find out, where are you getting your career information, your career advice? Who are you talking to? And although our feelings were slightly hurt, we did not come out number one on the list. So it actually was parents, family, and friends were top the list as those people they go to for their career questions, followed closely by faculty and advisors. So we've tried to be more intentional about sharing some information with those populations. So if students are having career conversations outside of the Career Center, our support, our career community members have just enough information to maybe nudge them in the right direction. So I don't want to overwhelm you with things. I don't want you to think you're coming out of here a certified career advisor, but I do want to give you some information and some resources that should you have some conversations or hear some questions from your student that you might be like, yeah, I think I heard something about that in the Career Center. Maybe we should kind of look that up, or I think they're having an event that might cover that. Here we can go to the website and find that information. So that's kind of the goal for today. So I hope that helps you with that. So in the Career Center, we kind of, and our website is designed this, we kind of follow 3 stages or pillars of information that we like to call explore, prepare, and connect. And that kind of guides how we move students through different pieces of information, different events that really help them build and create their career plan. So in the spirit of that, I do want to kind of hit on the first one, which is explore, where we really want students to kind of explore options for jobs and internships and find out what is it that's out there for them, what is it that might interest them, that they are qualified for or will be qualified for or developing skills for. And so this area is something we do a lot of event planning around to kind of expose them to these types of things. We do talk in our individual advising appointments about different options. But these are some things that we suggest. Reading job posts is one of them. And I will highlight a resource that we have on campus that's called Handshake. It's our career platform that all students have an account already set up. They just need to log in and it's there. And Handshake is where they can actually read job postings, internships, and current job postings of employers that are looking for college students. And this is sometimes just that first step, just kind of reading a description and being like, yeah, that sounds pretty good. I think I might like that. Or wow, not sure about that part. I'm not loving that part. So they start to kind of get this picture of what it is they would like to be looking for, and then how to read a job posting and know if it's something they want to follow up on. So definitely just reading some job postings is good. We have a lot of opportunities for students to network. I'll talk a little bit about that later, but networking and I've started calling it career conversations because networking can induce some anxiety. So it's really just a career conversation, talking with someone on campus, a faculty member, maybe a parent or neighbor about their career, or really a good source for us is our alumni. And I'm going to share some of that with you in a little bit, but getting them connected with people who have that information and having them have a conversation about it is a great way to explore. We love LinkedIn. We have over 170,000 alumni that are in some way, shape, or form on LinkedIn in current positions around the world. And we like to show students how to use that to find alumni and see what they're doing. I have coined this career stalking. It sounds negative, but it basically is just, let's just go and see what English majors from Miami are doing, or let's just see what kinesiology majors from Miami are doing and kind of get a sense of what's current out there. And then maybe let's connect with them. So that reviewing LinkedIn has a number of different ways of helping, but that first one, that exploration, is one of the ways I love to have students really see what the possibilities are. And then certainly our website, I will direct you that almost all the way through this presentation. We have a number of things that sometimes are hidden gems that I think really can help students. So when in doubt, I would say you send your student to the career website or the search box on Miami site and put things in there. It will probably then pull it out of our site to help you locate those. So those are the ways I think that we can really be intentional about helping students explore. This coming week, I think this next Monday, we have an event about government and nonprofit, and it's a whole day event where we've got employers and alumni coming back, and we've got prep sessions for students. It's almost like a mini conference, and that's another great way that we have these pop-up events throughout the year that really kind of hit on the career clusters or career industries of interest to students that they can attend a little bit part of it or the whole thing, whatever, but it does help them explore. So those things are also on our website as well. So next up, I like to infuse just a word about internships. This is definitely something that is important to think about, important to put in the career plan, because internships are that way to test out a career field or a position or an industry and really decide, is this something I want to pursue? I would say that sometimes it's as valuable to find some type of internship that ends up being maybe not what you wanted, because it lets you say, okay, that's not what I want. And that's as valuable as finding something that you do want. So we really preface that with students that this is the time to test things out and give it a try. But I do want to just talk a little bit about internships versus experience, because not all career-related experiences, or I'm sorry, all career-related experiences are valuable, but they're not all called internships. They don't all have that word in it. And there are even some specific industries that I mentioned that lack internships, such as the pre-health and the law. Those usually are for med students or dental students or law students. So that population of students, we really try to look at experiences that gain valuable experience in that setting or in that career field, but they might not have that tagline internship, and yet just as important as an internship. So those are some things. I also love to promote summer jobs. Any kind of work that students can do does provide career-related experience. And talking with students about that kind of, sometimes it helps pull it out. One of my favorite lines is, okay, so you've been going back to Whoopie Dip and you've been working there for a couple of years. Are you ever in charge of maybe showing a new staff how to work in the cash register or work with customers. Oh yeah, I do that all the time. Well, that's training. That's training staff. And so we talk a little bit about that, and it helps them identify some of the skills they have already gotten in those experiences. Then my next bullet, gigs or project-based internships, is something relatively new. It's a way for an employer to maybe have a project that they really could use an extra person to work on it, but they don't have the staff and they just need someone to kind of organize it or do it. And so we have a site called Parker Dewey that actually lists these project-based internships. Most are remote, so students can do them really all year round. They range from a 10-hour project to maybe a 40-hour project that students can complete by the deadline and get paid for it, but get some really good experience. And that is internship level experience. So we talk a little bit about to students about that. Some of the one of the populations that I think can really benefit from it, if any of you have a student who might be an athlete, taking a break for an internship can be really tough, but these project-based ones may fit better with their schedules. And then finally, volunteering. It can be a great opportunity. I try to tell students, I know being paid is important to you, but employers really are looking at your experience. So whether or not you were paid for it, it's still great experience. So let's look for something that's going to get you that financial support, but let's also look at that volunteer work that can get you that experience. So you get paid over the summer, but you also get some other additional good career experience. So just a word about that, because it does bring up a lot of stress for students, I think. So we talked about explore. We're going on to the next stage, which is prepare, that we cover in our activities. And this is probably what the Career Center is most well known for. Where do you go to get your resume done? Where do you go to get help with interviews? So this is kind of the heart of what we do. I do feel like we excel in that explore area, and maybe that's not as well known, but it's as important for students to know what's out there. So that explore is really important. And then to be followed up with prepare. We're talking about your documents, resumes, cover letters, applications, personal statements, even communication back and forth from employers that they might talk with at career fairs or events. We can help them a little bit with that as well and kind of help craft that. Our website has a number of good resources for students who are starting out to create that resume or maybe update a high school resume or one that may be a little out of date. So there's some great examples. There's some great section by section how to kind of complete that. We also have VMock, which is a really cool AI tool. So it's based on artificial intelligence, and students can upload a resume and it will score it for them, give them some ideas of where they can strengthen it. Maybe there's a typo, maybe they've reused a word too many times. It's really good at pointing out those details. And so VMock is helpful in the document development. And we have a staff of first peer career coaches. These are students that we train to work in our office, and they take drop-ins. So students can drop in Monday through Thursday, 10 to 5, Friday, 10 to 3, and meet with one of our peer career coaches. Say, here's what I'm doing with my resume. What do you think? Give me some feedback. They also work not only with resumes, but they can help with their LinkedIn profile, with any kind of cover letters. So they're trained in all of that kind of documentation to help. And then I've listed the career advisors. Each student has at least one career advisor that is assigned to them by academic area and by career cluster. So students can go back to the handshake platform that I mentioned. In addition to looking at job postings and applying to jobs, they can also make an appointment with their career advisor. And we're happy to help them with those documents as well. And then interviewing, I just did an interview workshop yesterday with a couple students, and I had a first-year student and a senior who runs the gamut. And it's really important for students to get that information. They might have had an interview for a summer job, maybe even an internship in high school or early college years, but that's one of those things that you just cannot practice enough or too much. Inevitably the job offer or the job interview you get is going to be the one you really want. You don't want that to be your practice. So we have both the mock interview program where students can meet with individuals live in person and go through an interview and get some feedback. And that magic VMock that was our artificial intelligence for resume, it also has an interviewing component. So students can practice interview questions in the privacy of their room. They could be the only ones to receive their feedback and see the actual recording of themselves as a pre-step to that mock interview with a real person. So again, another really good resource that students can utilize to get that practice. I think it also helps. I'll put this in there because the career fairs we're going to talk about in a minute. VMOC also has an elevator pitch component, so students can practice how they're going to introduce themselves to employers. And that is another key piece we try to work with them on, all the way up to the entrance of the career fair. Those students are going to check in at the career fair, and the next booth they're going to go to are practice areas that they can practice their elevator pitch, because we want them feeling confident when they go up to that employer and talk with them. So that VMOC, it hits resumes, interviewing, and elevator pitch all in one. So it's a great resource for that practice. And then finally, the third last pillar, we're talking about Connect. And so I mentioned briefly Parker Dewey, but one way students connect with opportunities is through Parker Dewey. It is a website or a link on our website that has those project-based gig internships that students can apply for. And that's a great way to connect with those early skill building types of activities through internships. I mentioned Handshake, all encompassing. Maybe next time you see your student, if they mention a Handshake, or if they mention they're not sure where to find internships, this is it. It's called a Handshake, and it can be easily accessed on Miami. And students, as I mentioned, they come into Miami with an account. We already load them into there, so they just need to use their Miami login information to gain access to their profile, their account in there to do this searching. So that's another great way to connect with opportunities. Our Miami alums, I don't know. I'm hoping there's some online. I'm just going to give a huge shout out. I've worked at other institutions. Love and honor is real here. These Miami alum are so dedicated to really helping in any way they can. We have a resource called Miami Alumni Connect, which is a kind of a mini Miami LinkedIn, where these alumni have signed up saying, hey, I'd love to give career advice to current students. And so students can use that resource to kind of search through and find alums that either are working in organizations of interest, or have positions of interest, or maybe they have the same academic background or academic clubs they were in, and they find that connection, and they just kind of want to talk about their experience and their advice and their suggestions. So the Miami alumni are very strong. They're also very loyal to put positions up from their organizations, which we love. We love any positions, but they seem to be very good about populating that. And we actually have a section in Parker Dewey that is dedicated to just Miami students and Miami alumni. So they're just very good about helping the students, and it's such a warm connection. Students really resonate with that and automatically feel like they know an alum because of the Miami connection. I mentioned LinkedIn. That's something we teach students how to use, not only for that careers talking I mentioned, but connecting with people and maybe setting up conversations to discuss things with. But LinkedIn is also a great job and internship source. Students are following the organizations of interest. They will see the postings that those organizations post, and it has become a very focused recruiting system for employers to go through LinkedIn and search for people. So all areas, all industries, we're trying to get students to perfect their profile, make it really shine and showcase who they are, what they're looking for, and what they have to offer, because that is a big recruiting tool that alumni or employers all over are using. Networking, not just at the career fair. You're seeing a lovely picture of one of our big career fairs. We have networking events that are even more casual, that are called networking. So it's not maybe a career fair, but it's a group of people from employers coming to talk with students. We take them into classes. Sometimes I'm doing some career fair prep workshops next week. Both have an employer joining me, so that students again can get that information, that connection right from an employer, which I think is always more meaningful. You'll understand this, but I feel sometimes like I'm the parent and the employers are the cool people, and so they listen to the employers. That's why I always bring them along. And it's a great way for students to kind of see the people that they will be talking with, working with one day maybe, but interviewing with. It really gives them that way of relating to them in a totally different way. and the career fairs. I'll be the first one to say that career fairs are only one way that we do connect students, as you've seen that whole list. They are the biggest. I kind of equate them to, it's our wedding. It's the grand event. It's not for everybody, and it's not something that everybody needs to go to every career fair. But it is a beautiful way for people to connect in person with people from organizations. And I think we have been doing a nice job of getting a variety of employers, so that coming up soon, we'll have an all majors fair, we'll have STEM fair, we'll have architecture fair. So I'll kind of go through those at the end to kind of let you know what's coming through the year. But it again, if your students like, there's nothing there for me at that career fair. At the all major fair, there probably is at least one organization of interest for almost any student, whether it's for an internship or a full-time job. But again, the number of ways we connect students varies. And so career fairs is not the only thing, it's just the biggest. So a word about networking, I already told you it's kind of a scary word. I usually use career conversations, but couple things coming up in addition to, we've got the career fair that we mentioned, but Dine is one of our events. It's diversity, inclusion networking event. So it is strictly a networking event. It's the night of our career fair. So we have a lot of employers on campus. They meet after the career fair for just a little reception. And it's another great way for students to connect with employers that are very committed to inclusivity, diversity, belonging. So that's another great event for students looking at those types of employers that are supportive. STEM fair is what it says, STEM fair, that usually falls in the fall, and it really encompasses all kinds of science, technology, employers and majors, or students interested in those kinds of industries as well. SEEN is our sport career event, and it is based really on interest of the sport industry. So students across the campus are interested, can attend. That is not just for our sports leadership and management students, but it is a great way to connect with the sports industry world. And that comes up in October. And then I threw in the career fair prep because I'm doing those in the next couple of weeks with employers. And again, those are what I would consider to be more networking types of things. We're really trying to be intentional, but those connections that students make on campus, off campus. I'm going to throw out one that you might have heard in orientation, but another way we help with networking is taking students to different cities to engage with local employers, alumni, and just the city environment in general. And so this year we're taking a group into Cincinnati, Columbus, and Cleveland. So we're kind of doing the Ohio trek. About a year and a half ago, we went to Chicago. There's been a trip to Atlanta. So what this does is it really allows students to make those connections with employers outside of the Ohio area and outside of the Oxford immediate area, and see also what it's like to live in those areas as well. So we take them out to dinner, we take them to maybe some art events or sporting events, just to kind of give them a flair of this is what it would look like. And I do think that's really helpful. They're networking not only with employers, we do include some alumni, but really the city. And I think that's a helpful tool for them. I just mentioned some of those activities over there that I've really already gone through with the MAC is really the Miami Alumni Connect that I mentioned, and LinkedIn, good ways for them to individually on their own network. I listed family and friends because I think so often I'll talk with students and they really haven't shared much with family and friends as far as what their plans are, what they're looking for. And more often than not, there is maybe a neighbor or someone at church or at a family event that says, oh, I know somebody who works there. I know somebody who does that. And that personal connection can happen. So I usually encourage students, talk to your family and friends about what you'd like to be doing or what you're looking for, to kind of see if there's anyone out there who can be helpful with that. This kind of showcases a little bit about our engagement with employers at our career fair events. We are known to have a very strong employer engagement. Employers are really eager to come to campus or meet with our students, and this kind of demonstrates that. Our unique organizations that attend one or more career fairs throughout the year, 487 compared to our peer institutions, which is about 150. So we really are fortunate. I think we have strong students and employers know this. And I would venture to say that that also reflects our strong alumni population as well, who are supportive. But that really showcases how many employers are engaged. And when they come to career fair, that's one thing. But when they also come to career fair and they go to a class, or they do a networking event, or they post their positions on Handshake, there's a lot of engagement from that. And then we have a lot of students attending the career fairs. I mean, that is a huge number. That's actually up a great deal from the last couple years. We're starting to see students are back fully engaged in person activities and loving it. So, and we're hoping this year that career fairs fall on cool days, because we've had some hot ones in the past, and there's nothing more sad to my heart to watch students all dressed up walking across campus in the, that blazing heat we've had. So we're going to hope for nice cool weather for all of them. And then here is a slide about our first career fair. That QR code should take you right to our website that really lists all of the fairs, but that will highlight at least the fall and internship fair, which is all majors, coming up September 18th. And again, it is early. Students have gotten back, they've unpacked, they've found their classes, and now we're shoving them off to career fair. So we are in the midst right now of trying to help students who need a little resume prep, a little career fair prep, that elevator pitch. We're working very hard the next couple of weeks to get them ready. And then to note, if this is too soon for some students, we repeat this in the spring. So if they didn't get this fair, we've got others coming up. And if they didn't get this fair, but they want to connect with these employers, we can show them on Handshake how to find out who came and to reach out to them and say, hey, I had a class, or I was working, or I couldn't make it. I'd still like to connect with you. There are those ways to do that, because I think this is also increasing some anxiety, just having this fair come up so soon. And we want to know we can help them find other ways to connect as well. But, and we do love our first years to go to this just so they can see all that is a career fair and get ready for that. I did a quick look. I'm not sure how many first year families and friends we have online, but I did look up. There were a number of our employers who are coming to this fair that are interested in speaking with first year students. I think there were 33 that had potential internship opportunities in various areas, even for first year students, and lots of employers for full-time jobs. So we're excited to really showcase some of these opportunities to our students. I think I usually get a question about first year students. Are there really opportunities for next summer? It all depends on what are the requirements of some of these internships. Sometimes employers are looking for a certain academic level. They need to have so many classes in this topic or this skill before they're eligible for that internship. And then others are really looking for students who are just eager to learn and want to help, and they're willing to teach. So it varies a lot. So it's more about looking in Handshake, looking at the employers that are coming to the events, and actually then keyword searching. Who's talking to first year students? Who's talking to history majors, who's open to remote opportunities. Really can kind of search for whatever students are looking for. Next steps. So I've hit you with a lot. I realize all of this can be found on our website, all of these resources. So kind of sending your student there can be helpful too, or if you want to kind of peruse through just to see what we do have. But again, as I said at the beginning, I don't expect anyone to leave today being ready to, career advise on all topics. But here's some things that I think may help as you go through and digest this information and work with your student, is to maybe have that career conversation with your student. How are things going? How's your major going? Have you been thinking about what you'd like to do in the summer? Or have you been thinking, if you have a graduation date coming up in the next year, have you been thinking about what is that career plan? What are your options going to be? Do we need to help you talk through that? Or do you need to talk to someone about that? But really to kind of go ahead and have that kind of conversation to see what's on their mind. I think also then listening for cues as to what might help them. If they're like, I know I'm graduating, I just don't even know what I want to do or what's out there or how to start. Sounds like there might be some exploration that they need to go through. And so maybe going through that section on our website that highlights all exploration things, maybe say, hey, have you talked with a career advisor? I think you have one in Handshake that you can just go ahead and sign up to meet with. that might be an appropriate time to kind of get them in that right direction, and then we take it from there. I also think faculty are good because they know what their recent grads have been doing or and interested in. So they're another great partner to kind of have some conversations with. But listen for those cues as to what might be helpful to them would be good. And then just refer them to events. You can say, hey, I heard about this career fair. Have you ever been to a career fair? Have you ever met with any employers, or do they come into your classroom? I think they've got some great artificial intelligence resources that you can pop your resume into and get some feedback even at midnight. And you don't have to wait to meet with somebody. So really kind of, knowing that we have resources, we do have events, and we do have staff that are there to help them in all those different areas. And again, kind of pointing them into the direction, just kind of nudging them would be helpful to us to get us connected with them, but it might just be helpful for them to be able to take it from there, and go on their journey, their career journey, and get some advice. So I believe I've come to my question slide. I believe I've hit my mark. So I'll turn it back to Joe and see if we have any questions that we can discuss.
Yeah, we've got a slew of them that came in. Let's start with earlier on in the presentation, you talked about GPA expectations, and what maybe some employees might be looking for. What can a student do if they don't have above a 3.0?
I say apply. I say we can help with some wording in a cover letter to maybe identify the reason, just briefly, like, my GPA might not reflect the level of skills and experience that I have or would like to provide. Maybe it's that, that very first semester took them down and it's been hard to come up. Maybe they hit a group of classes that were tough, but they've persevered. Maybe they've had to repeat a class that shows, grit and perseverance. So we kind of, tweak that. We don't have to not apply. I would say definitely continue to apply, and then just showcase the reason. And there's all kinds of reasons out there. So if they need to talk with a career advisor to kind of work that through, that's what I would do. Sometimes those are hard and fast GPAs because that organization gets so many applicants that they need a cutoff. But that also doesn't mean that you can't apply and get in there and explain and be seen. But other times it's kind of they feel like they have to put that in there, but it's not a hard and fast rule. And I do think we're seeing a trend with employers looking at the candidate and not just the academics. They're not just looking at GPA. They're not just looking at major. They're looking at the actual candidate, the skills and experiences, the well-roundedness of someone. I would say most employers would say, I want someone who's well-rounded with maybe a little lower GPA than a 4.0 who has nothing else to show. So we just highlight the strengths.
Okay, very good. When you talked in there a little bit about applying for things and do that. When's the best time to try to land a summer internship? Should they start looking in the fall? Can they wait till spring?
Yeah, that's a great question. Recruiting cycles are very odd and very different for different majors. I always tell some students, if you've got an accounting major in your room, don't listen to them because they probably already have a summer internship well before you do, because it's a recruiting cycle. But most students for a summer internship, I'd like them to get ready in the fall. That means get their documents ready, kind of understand where they're looking for opportunities. Look at a few things that might be a bigger internship where the cycle does start in the fall, where they apply and they won't know until spring. But the majority of opportunities are probably going to pop up in spring, which means January, not March. It means January. So summer internship search mainly happens in that spring semester. However, prep starts in the fall.
Okay. Are there internships available over winter break?
That's a great question. I don't want to say no, because sometimes what happens is they will start maybe an internship and then they'll continue it the next summer. So it could be like a little training session. So there can be some in winter term. What I love in winter term are those project-based internships, because those are definitely doable. Sometimes students can knock off a couple of those in winter term, put those on the resume, and then they're much more marketable for that summer internship. So that's probably more of what happens in winter term, just because of the timing.
Perfect timing for that. Can you reiterate where students can find project-based internship opportunities?
Yes. So the resource is called Parker Dewey, Parker and then Dewey. Now, here's the catch. Don't just Google Parker Dewey, because Parker Dewey goes everywhere. And if you don't go through Miami's website, they're going to want to charge you. So you want to go through either our Career Center site and look for Parker Dewey, or the Miami site and put in Parker Dewey, and it'll take you to our link. So students should not have to pay for Parker Dewey. It's free to Miami students. So yeah, make sure you go through there. And those are where the project-based internships are found, in Parker Dewey.
Very good. Can students access the Career Center past graduation?
Yes, we work with students at least 1 year after graduation. Sometimes, we will continue with them if they're in the middle of a search. But we do continue to let them have our resources and access to advisors, as well as attending career fairs. So yes.
Okay, very good. How do students find out about all of this stuff? How do they get your information?
Yeah. Well, we, like every office on campus, send out a weekly newsletter, usually very targeted to what's going on. So students this Sunday are going to get one that's very geared towards the career fairs. They got notice of that last week, but we're getting a little closer, so it'll be more specific. So they do get newsletters. They do get individual emails, sometimes from their career advisors or based on their career clusters or their major. So they do get a lot of emails from us and everybody else. So I know, especially at the beginning of the year, sometimes that's hard to manage. I would ask your student to maybe kind of skim through their emails and maybe search for the word career or internships or something to maybe pop those up. We are on social media. We've been in a lot of classrooms right now. Even the first year class, the UNV 101, if your student is in one of those, or Biz 106, they get a lot of career updates and events in there as well. But there's just a lot of information coming at students right now. So it is hard maybe for them. So I would not be surprised if they'd say, I don't know what you're talking about when you say career fair. I haven't heard anything about it.
Yeah. And for a lot of, especially first year students, it's not necessarily top of mind right now. They've got a lot on their plate trying to get their routines. Like they found their classes, they've got their when I need to leave stuff down, but they're starting to figure out their academic routines when they're studying, how they're using their time. There's still a lot, and they're still trying to make friends and connect. So there's a lot on the top of mind. So a little bit of like, hey, this is something you could also go to is a great push.
Yeah.
But yeah, they are inundated. They can find it.
Yeah.
If a student's major is undecided, how does that impact their chances and experience at the career fair?
As a first year student, I don't think that affects them at all. I would encourage them. I'm one of the advisors that works with that group. I usually encourage them to put exploratory studies on their resume. I might have them put some interest down if they're exploring some interest. But I think that does not hold them back at all. I think employers like that openness, like that they're exploring, and will tell them how their organization can fit with what they're looking for, because they're also trying to sell their organization to students. So definitely put that. We usually like students to make that decision at least by the end of the sophomore year, most likely before, and then we have them update that. If they have a minor, if they know it's maybe a minor that they're putting, they can put exploratory studies and then put their minor on there as well. I've had students who said, exploratory studies, exploring business industry positions or health related areas, because you're really not sure what you're doing. You can put a little focus on there if you want, but yeah, I don't think it hurts.
Very good. On that focus there, how are businesses with so many people at the career fair, how are the businesses organized? Are they by like major, like English or etc.? Like how do students figure out where to start in the career fair world?
It's a lot. So a handshake is the first place to start. They can look at all of the employers that are coming, and they can do a keyword search. They could do it by industry or by who the employer wants to talk with, or what opportunities. Like, are they looking for an internship? They can keyword search just employers that have the internship. And then they're going to kind of have to sift. They can search by career cluster if they want, and kind of narrow that down. But I encourage students not to narrow it too far down, because sometimes reading the job description is like, oh, I didn't know what that was. That looks kind of fun. So again, that goes back to that explore, but they can go through the list on Handshake. They can favor the ones that they're interested in so that those will pop up for them. And then when they get to the career fair, we will have a map, and it'll be an app too that kind of helps them locate those employers. We don't organize them at the career fair in any certain corner of the world because of competition with employers. We want them to scatter and not see a student go to all the same ones, or, kind of look at that. So we kind of scatter those, but we do have a great map. So if students have done that research ahead of time, it saves them time. Or there's places at the career fair they can come and kind of sit down, and we can even kind of talk with them, especially if it's their first time there, about how to find those employers and who might they want to talk with.
What that? Sorry, I'm reading through all of these questions, trying to find the themes.
Sure.
There's a couple questions about the Miami Alumni Connect.
Yeah.
How do they, is that access the same way with Parker Dewey, like through the website?
Yeah, there is a link. I think it's both on Alumni, and we've got a link to the Alumni. So the Alumni office kind of manages that resource. So when students go on or alumni go on, the first question is, it says join our community. And like everything online, it's going to ask you to create a little profile and fill out some information. And then usually they're very good about within sometimes like 6 hours, but 6 to 24 hours, they will approve that and give you access to it, just making sure that we do have the Miami connections there. And so it's very easy to, even if you go into like the Miami search bar and do Miami Alumni Connect, it should take you to that location.
Excellent. So I'm just gonna keep running through these. There's a handful more. I hope you've got some time, Beth.
I got time.
Good. Is there a list of alumni or professionals or access to folks of that sort who connect with students to talk about their field in general or specifically available opportunities? And how do the students get to those individuals if they exist?
Yeah. So we don't have a separate list. What we would do is direct them back to that Miami Alumni Connect, because that is, again, that resource where alumni have signed up specifically to provide career advice. They have the option to select, help with interview prep, resume prep, career advice, introducing people to in my network. So again, that networking function, job shadows. Am I willing to offer a job shadow, have a conversation? So they're able to select what level of involvement they're willing to give with students. So when students go into the Miami Alumni Connect, they have a search where they can search by major. Maybe it's a club. You want to find people in their Greek fraternity, or maybe it's an industry. Then those alumni profiles will come up just like LinkedIn. You can kind of go through, see who you want. The beauty of this is that if you find someone, there's the ability to send them an email. It comes from a Miami email, so alumni recognize it. But it also has kind of a template that students can just tweak. So it kind of has this nice written message about why they want to connect with them, and then they can go in and kind of make it their own and kind of change maybe a few of the words. So it's very easy. And then again, because these are alumni who've signed up to do this, they have a much higher response rate and a quicker response rate to reach out to that student. A lot of times they set up a Zoom meeting. Sometimes if they're in the area, alumni like to meet in person, come back to campus. There's always a reason to come back to campus. So that's how I would have them connect with those alumni in certain industries or organizations.
Very good. Very cool. On the subject of connecting with alumni and organizations, do companies, a 1998 alum asked a question, if they're still on-campus interviews, do companies and firms still come and do the first and second runoff interviews physically on campus, or where else? How are those done these days?
It's a great question. I would say it does look different these days, because I was on campuses in 1988. We still have employers that will set up on-campus interviews. We have interview rooms in our office. And so they're all conducted in our office or in the main building if we need to get extra rooms. Probably not as many as 1988. We have some employers who will actually set up next day interviews after a career fair. So they'll come and do the career fair and actually schedule students for that next day because they're in town, either in our office, or sometimes we'll do it in the actual career fair environment. Right now, we're seeing a lot of, initial or screening interviews that are on Zoom or phone, but mostly Zoom now. Or sometimes the video recordings, the employer will send a link of questions, students will record their answers and then send it, and that's kind of a pre-screening. And then we're seeing them in person go on site to the next interview. So not as many on-campus interviews, although some, but different ways of connecting. That's a great question, though.
Very cool. All right. I know that some of our colleges are more robust beyond the career fair and things. Do other colleges, farmer, arts and sciences, engineering, do they do any additional or separate fairs or internship fairs, career fairs, etc.?
Yeah. So one of the things that Miami has kind of helped our employers with is saying that the Career Center will do all career fairs. It doesn't mean that we don't work with the different colleges. Like I mentioned, we're doing an architecture fair, so we're working with CCA. We work closely with Farmer on their events, but the career fairs specifically are out of the Career Center. Now, the other colleges will sometimes do their networking nights, meet the firms that they do sometimes in the departments, or student orgs will organize. So there are some of those types of things going on. We do have a couple of new employer industry connections that work in our office and the college. So the newest one was the College of Arts and Science. We have an employer industry rep that works both with the college and in our office to kind of help manage some of those employer connections. But all career fairs are through here, and then smaller things might be happening in the different colleges. We're trying really hard. I mean, we've got the teacher education fair. Each of the colleges really has something specific to their population at some point. We have Career for the Common Good, which hits nonprofit, social justice, government types of positions. We have Spark Fest, which is this beautiful display of our creative arts students and what they've created. And we bring employers to campus to kind of go around and meet them and talk with them. So different ways of working with those different colleges, but that's kind of how it's done.
Very cool. Thank you. All right. Should a student have a resume ready when they come to career fair? And could you talk a little bit broadly about what to expect from, like, what the student can expect in their experience at the career fair?
Sure. So if they are going to talk with an employer, I think it's very helpful to have some type of resume. Not all employers are collecting resumes at the fair. A lot of times they'll want to connect on LinkedIn. So what we try to do is have a student be prepared with that resume, with that LinkedIn profile ready to connect if they're going to talk to employers about actual opportunities. If a student wants to talk with and make just a connection with someone, I wouldn't think they need a resume, but they might need to be prepared that employer might say, hey, I'd love to stay connected. Can you find me on LinkedIn? So they might have to go home and do a LinkedIn profile to reach out. So those are the things that we would talk to a student about. If they're looking for a position, yes, we would say they need a resume. If they just want to talk with them, maybe not. Just be prepared for how they're going to connect. The career fair is very large. It's over at Millette. Students will walk in, we'll check them in, we'll make sure they know how to access the map and know where things are. We have a group of tables for people who have this is their first time, to kind of help them navigate. We'll talk them through, we'll show them what it looks like. We have a little tour for some students who are going to be required to go for class, but also just want to see what is this like, where we take them through, we show them the different tables with employers. We talk about the lines of students waiting to talk to employers. We have them notice what people are wearing, what they're carrying with them, show them where they can get water. We do have stations to take breaks. And so those are the kinds of things that they'll experience as they go into that.
Very cool. Very good. All right. And then if a student's feeling like they're not quite ready to talk to employers at the career fair, what can they be doing between now and the next career fair or internship fair to prepare for that?
Well, it'd be great if they just wanted to go and check in and walk through and not talk to anybody, because then they really see what it's like. And that's absolutely fine. That's what we have those tours for. You do not have to talk to an employer to go to the fair. You will have to check in. And we might just say, hey, this is great that you're here. You might just want to walk down that corridor and notice these couple of things, and then they can leave. That's fine. If they don't want to do that, that's fine as well. It just helps with knowing the environment a little bit. So if they want to get ready then for the next fair, I would say it's time to think about that resume, LinkedIn, possibly just talking with a career advisor about who they'd want to talk with at the fair. They might be like, I want to go and I want to talk to events, but I don't even know who to talk with. And so maybe we can kind of hear their story about what might be some good connection fits for them and get them ready for that next experience.
Very good. Very cool. Okay, thank you. Looking through, there's a handful of questions sort of alluding to students asserting that they've got enough, right? Like I get career support from my peers. They look at each other's resume, or I've got an advisor over here, or like I don't really need this. They don't really do anything. Like what kind of language maybe do you have to offer some families to like encourage their students to tap into these resources beyond when they get that like, oh, I've got it in hand kind of response?
Well, I mean, I think that in today's job market, I think the more tools you have, the better. And we are that additional tool. Can students succeed and find a job without us? Yes. However, I think we make it easier. We can explore those resources to make them more understandable. And if nothing else, we can just say, hey, you're doing a great job. You are on track. Here's just a few things I would tweak. So it's just that extra tool that we have. And I think the proof will be in the outcome. If students are getting interviews and they're getting offers, then hey, things seem to be working. But what sometimes happens is it doesn't happen. And you're like, what's going on? And they start to panic. And then they're that much farther behind if we haven't been able to kind of guide them along. If they don't want to come in for an individual appointment, I would encourage hey, just go to an event, just go and see what it's all about, or hear that employer talk, or hear that alumni panel. And that might be enough to get them connected, because a lot of us are usually there. We like to talk to students, ask them, what they thought, what can we do for them, those kinds of things. So if they're not up for that, maybe just say, hey, just go to something and see how helpful it might be.
That's great. I agree. Talking about preparing for career fair, etc. Is there a dress code? What should students expect to wear to the career fair? And then do they need to wear the free name tag they signed up for?
Well, we love the free name tag because it adds a level of professionalism, but we also have other ones if they lose it or they forget it or whatever. A name tag is very important. And that's why we wanted to go and invest on these nice new professional ones. There is no dress code. What we talk to students about is dressing business casual. So, no sweats, no jeans, no shorts, but business casual. So something a little nicer. What we see is a lot of employers are more casual. So I think students start to see that and think, oh, they can be casual. So we try to talk about, that first impression, that kind of pulling it together. Do they need to go out and invest in a $500 suit? Absolutely no. We say, wear the nicest thing that you have. That is what we call business casual. And sometimes we'll talk a little bit about that. But we are seeing, students and employers dressed for their industry. And so sometimes that is a little bit of a change. And we want students to also be somewhat comfortable. Is this something is that an industry you want to work in if they're wearing this kind of thing? So we do talk about that. I will shout out that Sunday, September 15th, if that's a Sunday, but it's a Sunday coming up. We have the JCPenney suit up, where we have buses going back and forth from the closest JCPenney, which is about 25 minutes. And JCPenney gives students a really nice deal. It's like 30% off, even sale items, any professional wear. And that includes things like scrubs, and watches and shoes and anything that might be professional. So that's another way we try to connect students with more professional wear to make them feel comfortable at the fair. And we also have some professional attire agreements available if students want to apply for some financial assistance with that. So
excellent.
It's a great deal.
Is it too late for a student to get a name tag? And if not, how do they get them?
Okay, it's too late to get them by the career fair. I think the deadline was last week for that order to be in. But if they register for the fair and want a name tag, the next order goes in October, so they'd actually get one. Or if they want to, we'll do this again before the career fair next time. So they can still get one. But for this time, if they didn't get one, like I said, we will have name tags that they can use. So they should be good.
Very good. Talking about dress codes and upcoming events, could you remind folks of the some of the details for the Dine event?
Oh yeah, Dine. Such a great event because so many employers stay for that. It's a long day, but it's after the first career fair. And Dine is really about organizations who are dedicated to creating work environments that students feel comfortable in. There's a definite sense of the diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging. These employers typically are ones who've gone through some of that training with our office to provide work environments that are welcoming to all students. And so they want to meet students who are looking for that kind of work environment. So we'll have, over 100 students that'll attend with all these great employers that are really dedicated to that. All students are welcome. It's an additional way to meet employers that maybe they didn't get to talk with at the fair, or maybe they did and they want to follow up because they really, want to make a connection with this employer. So again, all students are welcome. It's just kind of a little reception after the fair. Everybody's all in their career fair gear and everything. But again, these employers are typically very loyal to our students and being very conscious of what students are looking for in work environments and trying to make changes to do that. So it's a really great event.
Great. Okay. There are a lot of questions still coming in, so I'm going to get a couple more, and then I think we'll
Just so
we'll have to pause
popular.
it. You're knocking it out of the park.
Either that or I didn't hit the mark on something.
No, they're starting, like, some of the things I've still got here are a little more narrow, and I'm starting to type some answers in for folks.
Okay.
Talking about I think you talked a little bit about how to encourage students to tap in, students who are overconfident, wanting to use the CCS. I think it's one of those things that you don't know what you don't know, and until you've asked somebody who knows what they know, who knows what they're talking about, who is tapped into the specific world of helping college students find their first career paths, you really gotta, like, if they think they've knocked it out of the park with their stuff, they should go prove it. Right, show up at the career center and be like, "Can you check my stuff?" And
Yeah.
then they'll know for sure if they've got someone said, "Yes, you're knocking it out of the park. Keep going."
Yeah.
And I think
I
that's,
mean,
it's just check. Better
if
safe
you,
than sorry.
yeah, if you think about it, I mean, I never used my career center when I was in college. That's probably why I'm a career advisor, because I wish I had, because it would have been easier. We just have so many resources, and even if it's just to kind of share with them some job searching tools. Like I'm always telling students, create a spreadsheet before this big thing happens. You got to keep on top of who you're talking to and when you're talking to them and what you said you do and follow up and who's your connection. And so just some of those things can be really helpful. So I do think it's a good idea to connect. It's a resource that they have. It's available. We're available to all students. There's still some I don't know, misconceptions or myths, like we're just for business students, which we're not. We're just for juniors and seniors, which we're not. We love our first years. And so there's that misconception a lot out there too. And I would hope that students know we've worked really hard to be an office for all students who are looking for anything. So I really do think it's a helpful thing to just connect with us. I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
All right. I got two more questions, I think, that are broad enough that everybody will be interested in.
Okay.
What kind of are there career resources available in the winter term here on campus? Fairs, programming, anything happening in the winter term?
So in the winter term, first of all, we are here on campus and we love to have career appointments then, because that's a great time for students to really kind of update things or get ready for something. So we are open, number one. We do not have anything on campus that is an event because students really are not here. We do have sometimes virtual prep sessions, like if they're getting ready for something. And then what we do have are two of our treks. So those are those career treks where we're taking students into Cincinnati and into Columbus over winter term. Students aren't in classes, so it doesn't affect their classes. It's right before they come back, so they just have to move in like a day or two early, and we take them into the cities. So those are kind of what we spend the time doing, but it is a great time for us to connect individually with students during that, really 4 to 5 week period.
Excellent. Very good. And then AI interviews. It is that someone mentions that they are seeing more of this in their field. Is this something that you all are working with students on at the moment, preparing for?
Yes. We are infusing in our workshops information on how, first of all, how AI can be helpful and successful in assisting or supporting without writing your cover letter for you. We had a company that said they got 50 letters from, it was not our university, thanks very much, but it was from 50 students from one university with the same cover letter who just went on did AI. So we talk about that. We are talking too about, that's why the VMOC is really good about helping students practice recorded answers and being able to navigate some of that newness. We haven't seen it as much. I mean, when the pandemic hit, that's when we started to see it. So I haven't seen a real growth in that for our student population, but it is something that is out there. So yeah, that is definitely top of mind and trying to help students with that, but we're still kind of on the learning edge of that.
Very good. For the rest of these questions, folks, questions about looking for internships in geographically specific locations, what to include in your resume, whether we should be looking at high school experiences or not, and what year of student you are, whether or not you need to start collecting letters of recommendation. Those are great questions that probably are very specific. LinkedIn and Handshake are great for looking for those internships online and finding those geographic locations. The other stuff I think is really dependent on your field, and the Career Center has career advisors dedicated to the different colleges, right? And so they are tapped into that more specific group of career areas and can really speak to that. And so if your students are floating and asking these kind of questions, or you have these kind of questions, steer your students towards that so they can really get the area specific information for their field, for their desired area, so that they can really knock that out. Without doing extra work for things they don't necessarily need, but also getting it together in the ways that are going to fit what that particular field expects. And then a question about where these are posted, for where we put our Zooms and our things. They're on the Miami Family Connection. We're still getting the hang of the timing of posting these things and then getting them swept up in the newsletters, where the Miami Family Connection is still new to us. And so I think that this didn't quite make everybody's newsletters in the last go around. We'll make sure we post them earlier in the future. Instagram and the Facebook group are really great places. This is one of the only things we post on there outside of general other spaces. So those are really the best places. And you can always, if you want to get a list to check what's coming up, you can always email parents at Miami OH for that. All of this will be on the Miami University Parents and Families YouTube channel. We'll start a 2024-2025 webinar series. We'll also probably, we'll find other ways to get out there. We'll post it. Well, it's the recordings there. We'll put it also in the Miami Family Connection so you can find it. We'll post that it is available in our Instagram and in the Facebook group so folks can find it there. With that, Beth, thank you for your time. This was so much fantastic information. We've answered so many questions. I'm sorry we couldn't get to everybody's questions. I encourage you all to reach out to the Career Center yourself, or encourage your student to do that to get some of these questions answered. And thank you all. Have a great rest of your week and happy pre-fall.
Great. Thank you all.